All right?
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Let's get started.
Okay.
Today we are here to talk about you and Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
Often in martial arts we talk about our journey. So, when did your journey begin and
I got very lucky. I started training when I was 17 years old. I just had a high school kid's job at a tanning salon, and I worked with a girl who trained at Gracie Humaita St. Louis. It was at a different location then, but the same academy, same owner. And she said, "Hey, do you want to come try this tonight?" And I said, "Sure." And I stuck with it. It's been 15 years almost. So I got very lucky. I walked into arguably, in my biased opinion, the best gym ever.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit here in a moment. Did you ever desire to study any other martial art in addition to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I would say I have respect for all of them. I love learning anything in general. This is for sure my passion. I've taken some of the judo classes here and I enjoy that as well, but this really is where my focus is, for sure.
And for the last 15 years your focus has been strictly on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Correct.
So you did decide to go with Gracie Humaita rather than, say, Gracie Barra or Eddie Bravo's 10th Planet or, say, the Machado Jiu-Jitsu system. Could you, as both a competitor and a professor of Jiu-Jitsu, maybe talk a little bit about how you see some of the differences between the Gracie Humaita family versus Barra, Bravo, and Machado?
I don't have a lot of experience with the other affiliations, but for Gracie Humaita specifically, I love it because it's such a mentoring style. So I'm still able to be very competitive. There are people here to push me and help me train for tournaments, but there are also quite a few of us who really enjoy the self-defense. We're well-rounded. We want to see all the aspects of jiu-jitsu, and it's not just about beating each other up. It's about really helping each other grow and get better. It just makes me happy to walk in the door, regardless of the training. I enjoy the people here.
Matter of fact, there's a motto at this school. What is the motto at this school?
Good people, great jiu-jitsu.
A lot of people, you've mentored a lot of people over the last 15 years. And you mentioned just a moment ago the self-defense aspect of the art. One of the things I know that occurs at this academy, and maybe at other academies as well, is women's only classes.
Yes.
Did you begin as a student in women's only classes and now you teach? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I did start as a student. I didn't train strictly the women's only classes when I first started. I came to all the adult classes, the women's classes, everything I could essentially. But I was a student until I got my purple belt, at which point I started teaching the women's only classes. So that was probably about 7.5 years in.
So that's 7.5 years ago, or because you said it's
essentially,
about
yes, yeah, about halfway.
About 50% of your career in the martial arts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you have been instructing as well, and specifically women's classes.
Yes.
What would you tell somebody like me, a man, about how the family of women work together in a class? Because I'm not going to be in that class.
Right. I think it's a different sort of bond, and it probably occurs for the men too. If you're training in a combat sport, it's hard. It's really hard to do. So there's a different bond when you're sweating and sometimes bleeding together and trying to choke each other, but you're still friends at the end of it. But we're a very welcoming group. Everyone has a great attitude. I feel like these last few years our women's program has really grown, and everyone, we enjoy being around each other so much in the academy, out of the academy. It's just a very welcoming group right now. So we're pretty tight-knit.
One of the things that I like to believe, and I know I've seen signs posted, not necessarily here, but I know it's true, about leaving the ego outside. How do you feel that affects both you training, whether it's co-ed, and then also how maybe it affects the female group as well?
I think probably the female group has less of an issue with having an ego than the male group, in my opinion. But I think if you are a big, strong guy and you have to train with a pretty small person like me, it definitely gets your ego. You have to leave the ego behind to really have fun.
Speaking of competing
Yes.
and different people we compete against, you have definitely excelled.
Thank you.
Here in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And as a matter of fact, the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation, known as the IBJJF,
Yes.
ranks you
Yes.
as #1 female black belt in the Masters 1 light featherweight division.
Yes.
Which means, correct me if I'm wrong, that you are born, or you were born, you are born, you're alive and well, between 1994 and 1989.
Yes, I was born in 1992.
And you weigh in at 118 pounds or less?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so we know.
In the gi.
There are, last time I looked, approximately 41 competitors
Okay.
in your division.
Okay.
And you are literally hundreds of points ahead of all of them. 200-300 points, I believe, close to the #2 ranked
Okay.
person in your division. Yeah. Would you consider your division top?
Yes, absolutely.
Why?
I think being a smaller division, we have to be very technical. We can't muscle through things and, kind of fudge stuff where we don't really know it. So everyone is very precise. They're on point. We're used to having to work really hard because we get squished a lot. So it builds that mental toughness when you are often the smallest person in the room.
Mentally
Very skilled.
Tough. You won first place. Matter of fact, you have some hardware.
I do.
Would you like to show us some of that hardware?
Sure.
You just hold that up right there, proud.
Yeah.
That's want to tell us about that? That's a first place what?
This is first place at the International Master. This event was May 29th, 2024, so I just got back from competing there. That is one of the bigger Masters events. It's tacked on with the Adult World Championships out in California in Long Beach. So it was a fun day.
Fun day. Took home the gold.
Yes.
What was it like preparing for your competitors as well as then facing you?
I think preparing, it's something that we get better at every time we do it. So the more you compete, the more used to it you get. You understand yourself, how you need to prepare. So I'm still trying to fine tune that, but getting better every time at exactly what I need, how much rest time versus how much cardio and weightlifting and jiu-jitsu and the positional sparring and the perfect formula for getting ready before a tournament. Luckily, I do have a wonderful professor here who is very helpful, always willing to put in extra time for me. And he is really good about research. So he does a lot of the research on the opponents, what their game is, what I should look out for. So he helps me by giving me some of that information, like this person's really good at spider guard, so you probably should positional spar out of that for a while leading up to it. So I think he did a great job preparing me for what I was going to face and the styles that the other girls would have. So that translated pretty well when we got to the event. I knew who was going to pull guard versus who would try to stay standing, and I was ready for what was about to happen in the match.
This coach you speak of,
Yes.
he actually owns this academy?
That is correct. That is correct.
And he has been a mentor.
Yes.
His name's
Professor Wright, though he is also my husband.
What do you think, from your perspective, on the mat as a jiu-jitsu artist, as a martial artist, that he brings that allows all these other people to excel?
I think that is multifaceted, so I might have a long answer for this one. Again, I'm partial to him. But I think technically he's also a small guy, so he understands the technique so well. He's just like me, he's not able to muscle everyone around. He has to perform things perfectly. So then he can teach it very well because he understands it so well for himself. So I think that really gives him a leg up instruction-wise. I also think he's a very selfless individual, so he will give so much of his time. People think he has an easy job just teaching jiu-jitsu, but I see him at home until 10 o'clock at night sometimes working through helping people, whether it's techniques they send questions about or business problems with his affiliates. So he is so willing to give of himself and of his time. I think obviously that translates to all of us who are able to benefit from him being so giving. He has also done such a good job creating the atmosphere here that it is a mentoring school, so it doesn't all have to come from him. He has so many black belts and so many people he's trained well that they then pass it on to everyone else. So there are other black belts, cardio, Scott Roper, these people will roll with me to help me prepare for a tournament. They're happy to do it. It comes from the top. They are also selfless because they see it coming through the line. So everyone here is so willing to give of themselves because it starts with the boss man. He sets the example for everyone.
Okay, that's great explanation of
Thank
what
you.
Makes Professor J.W. Wright such an amazing coach. And as we just mentioned, you took the gold just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And during the last 15 years, you didn't start as a black belt.
Right.
So what other divisions and tournaments stick out in your mind during your journey as a competitor?
Okay, so prior to black belt, I will say there are two tournaments that really stick in my mind. The first one would be, I don't honestly remember the year, but I was probably about 3 years into training. I was a blue belt and I competed at 5 Grappling in Chicago, and it was the first time I won a tournament. I'll be completely honest, I lost my fair share before that, white belt, blue belt, but I finally won, and it gave me that confidence of, I really kind of know a couple things here. I was still just a blue belt, but it really instilled some confidence in me. And then at purple belt, I think I was in North Carolina. I believe I was competing in North Carolina. I tried to compete a lot at purple belt, but it was the first time I medaled in an open weight. I took silver in the absolute weight class. I won 3 matches in that open weight and lost the finals match, but I beat an ultra heavyweight with just some fundamental jiu-jitsu. I pulled guard and swept and got to the top, and it made me feel so good, like, man, this jiu-jitsu really works. I just beat somebody who's 70 pounds heavier than me just using the basic fundamentals that I've been taught. So those are the 2 prior to black belt that really stick out. I should also, JW will probably yell at me if I don't mention this, I did win a bronze medal at the Adult World Championships at brown belt. So I should say that. Blue belt, purple belt, brown belt. I got 1 big tournament that sticks out at each.
Okay.
Sorry.
Awesome. As an athlete, you're competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so obviously you train in the martial arts. What else, as an athlete, do you do to achieve and maintain your top-notch status?
I'm one of those crazy people who likes to work out, so I do 3 days of strength training and 2 days, sometimes 3 days of strength training, 2 days of cardio, sometimes 3 days of cardio, 2 days of strength training, depending on where I'm at before a tournament. Do I need to ramp up the cardio? I will vary that a little bit, but I really do enjoy at least getting 5 days of supplemental workouts, some sort of circuit training, rowing, assault bike, sprinting, bench press, all various kinds of workouts, but I think you do need to supplement with something outside of the gym,
and
the academy.
Doing that and doing it successfully, that is excellent to hear and know. Nothing in life is free, nothing. How do you support your training habit? How have you supported your training habit?
I do have a big kid job. I'm very lucky. I work with a wonderful group of people. It's a pretty small corporate operation. We staff people on contracts, but I handle payroll, HR, accounting for a company called Unitech Consulting, and they are very flexible with me, so I only go to an office on Wednesdays. The other days of the week, I get to essentially set my own schedule and work from home, so I can work around my training schedule as long as I get everything done. So I've worked there for almost 10 years, and it's been great.
But through the years, you've met a lot of athletes.
Yes.
And some of them were on your team. It's a team sport at times.
Right.
And
I would say all the time.
Yeah. So there's been the Gracie Amada St. Louis competition team, the affiliated Gracie Amada schools. Sometimes you get together. It's a big tournament. There's not only individual wins. There's team points.
Right.
Everybody looks. So the team's been around. And through the years, some of your friends and fellow athletes have, for one reason or another, whether it's changing location or whatever they've decided, have continued their lives and careers elsewhere. Do you stay in touch with some of them?
Paths take us different places, so whether you move away, switch affiliations, we're all one big team. The martial arts community, like we were talking about earlier, is pretty small, so we can't all be adversarial towards each other. So I try to reach out. For sure I should be better, but I do still enjoy talking to a lot of teammates who've moved away.
One that comes to my mind that we both know and have watched through the years is a woman by the name of Jenna Fisher. I don't know if you're still in touch with her, but she had a very successful Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu career, yes?
Yes,
okay.
For sure.
So she went up from having a very successful career as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist, and now she's working as a mixed martial arts fighter.
Right.
Yeah. Do you stay in touch with her?
I have not talked to her in quite a while. I don't follow mixed martial arts very much, but I will see the various Facebook posts when she wins things, but no, I haven't talked to her in quite some time. So.
And from that answer, I'm going to venture out on a limb and say you probably don't have a large desire to follow that path.
No, I think I will stick with the jiu-jitsu. I don't necessarily need to be punched in the face.
I can understand why. So you're going to take care of your body in a whole different way.
I'm trying.
By just not even getting in the ring or the Is there anybody that you would really want to fight, take on the mats? Is there somebody on your radar that you're thinking I'd like to eventually get a shot at on the mat in light featherweight?
I would say probably JW would have a better list for you because he has a lot of people he would love to see me matched up with. I think it's more, I probably would like to get back to competing at adult a little bit, drop down the age class and test myself against those women who are still a little bit younger, see if my speed can match up. So I might try to go back into the adult bracket a little bit and see how that goes. Not necessarily one specific person, but to push myself a little more against some younger opponents.
Okay. That sounds great. Let me ask you this. Martial arts has opened a lot of opportunities for you, yes?
Correct.
True. Who are your inspirations, both on and off the mat?
Oh, goodness. Obviously, my main inspiration is this. I hope this isn't a cop-out, but it's my husband, because that man right there. He's the only reason that I am where I am, the only reason I stuck with it when I wandered in this academy 15 years ago. So I would say for sure he's my number one inspiration. He pushes me to be a better version of myself. But like I said, he has so many great affiliates that there are just so many people. Even you might know Little Brian and Sean Woods. I look up to them a lot too because they have been so successful in jiu-jitsu and in creating that as their livelihood. They have spread it to so many more people, so not necessarily in a tournament mindset, but in like what they have given back to the sport and how they've brought it and spread it to such a wide audience. I'm very inspired by them as well.
What about people outside of the martial art?
Oh gosh, I mean, my whole life my hero's been my dad. He was a police officer in the military, a detective, so he recently passed away as well, so he's a very big inspiration to me. I hope to make him proud.
As you just mentioned, I know your father just passed away, and I know he holds a special place in your heart. Would you tell us a little bit more about your family, what it was like growing up and what it's like now?
I am, one of those terrible people who just had an awesome childhood, 2 wonderful, loving parents. My parents are still together. My dad has passed, but we're together my whole life. They were both so supportive. They were a very good mix, my mom being very intelligent, very school focused, my dad being more of the street smart. He was a police officer dealing with all kinds of walks of life. So they were a great mix raising me. I think they worked together, paired very well. They made me believe I could do anything I wanted to do. They supported all my dreams. They made things happen. We never had a lot of money, things like that, but they would make sure I was always taken care of, wasn't wanting for anything, very loving. They are still that way. They would still, anytime they could see it, if it was live streamed, would watch my tournaments, watch the videos when I got home. As soon as I'd be done competing, I would be so excited to just call them and tell them what happened because I knew they were waiting to hear from me. So they have supported me in every aspect of my life forever. So I'm very, very lucky in that sense.
It's a beautiful upbringing. We should all be so lucky. I know that through the years that you've been involved with some charity work of your own. Can you tell me a little bit about some of your favorite charitable activities, in specific maybe New Grip, and I know you're very active with dogs.
Yes. My best friend is, my 2 best friends, it's a husband and wife. They are very involved with Dog Saver Rescue, so I have in the past fostered for them, gone to their fundraising events. It's a great organization. Obviously, I love all animals, so anyone who's trying to save animals, help find them homes, I am all for that. I love Stray Rescue in St. Louis. They deal with a lot of the city animals, a lot of gunshot victims and things like that, so I like to support them anytime they have fundraisers. And I also am pretty partial. Again, my dad was a lung transplant recipient, so anything with Mid-America Transplant, Second Wind Lung Association, I am very supportive of them as well because they gave me 11 extra years with my dad. So I'd like to pass that on or give back to that in any way I can.
Okay. 2 last things, if I may.
Of course.
I wasn't going to ask, but now that I'm a little more comfortable and I feel like you're not going to jump across and tackle me, you're sporting an injury.
I do have some stitches at the tournament last week. Probably within the first 30 seconds to a minute, it just was one of those fluke things where we went opposite directions and head-butted in my first match, so I got to wear a nice head wrap for the rest of the tournament and go get some stitches at urgent care after that. But it's my first stitches ever. It's kind of cool.
Speaking of a man, it's been stitched, speaking as a man, it's been stitched more times than you care to know. It is what it is. Is there anything else that you would like to share today, Professor Wright?
Oh my gosh, I'm just thankful for this opportunity, thankful for everything Jiu-Jitsu has brought me and the life I get to lead. So I've enjoyed spending time with you. Thanks for interviewing me. Sorry I'm all sweaty.
No,